Welcome to my No Buy Year Part 5. In this video, I chat to sustainable fashion guru Aika about mindful purchasing and how liberating sustainable fashion really is. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in sustainable fashion?
My name is Aika. I'm from New York City. I live in Brooklyn. So the way I got into sustainable fashion was probably like around high school with a reusable water bottle and like just being kind of conscientious of what you consume. And in the last couple of years, and specifically in the last year and a half, I'd say, I've gotten really into being extremely mindful of what I buy, just in general, and how I spend my money. That kind of led me to realize just how much fashion industry in general pollutes. I was really always into fashion and just kind of like playing around with it and just kind of like a thing with creativity, and you just don't realize just how much impact it has. And when I entered into the workforce, all I could afford was fast fashion. And funny enough, I still own those items. Every time they would come out with like new styles and fashion, I was like, how are people buying all of this? Like, where's the rest of it going? So yeah, so in the last, I would say 3 years or so, I stopped going to H&M. I don't go to Zara. I just wear what I got. And if I do purchase, it's always secondhand first. If I get bored, honestly, like I rent my clothing. So we have that available in New York. I'm sure they have like other places as well. Yeah, it just kind of like feeds my creativity in that way without actually consciously consuming more.
And your background's in law, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I am a lawyer in New York. I'm in litigation. I've been admitted to the bar for this is my 8th year or 9th year. So it's like crazy to think about it. So when I first did start, it was all pre-COVID. So you have to be in the office, you have to dress a certain way. And I couldn't afford like those $2,000 suits. And at the end of the day, like you look at red carpet appearances and like Leonardo DiCaprio is wearing a Armani and George Clooney is wearing Gucci. You're like, it's literally a black suit. Like you cannot tell the difference. So, and I would go to like H&M and Zara and would buy clothes that I need to look like refreshed. And there was just such a stigma with re-wearing and repeating your outfits and all of those things. So you were like almost forced to like purchase constantly. When COVID came around, it really forced everybody to kind of like slow down and like think whether or not they actually need all those things. But of course, everybody pivoted and started buying athleisure and sweatpants and all that. So, but yeah.
Yes, athleisure is still my number one favorite. Like once you go elastic waistband, you can never go back.
What's funny? Like I own, and this like drives people, like people don't believe me, but I own one pair of sweatpants, only one, and it's the fuzzy one that has fuzz on the inside, and I only wear it to the park when it's extra cold to walk my dog, and that is it. I do not own any other sweatpants, and it blows people's minds away.
That's amazing. Well
I
done.
refuse.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do my no buy year was because I had a spending addiction. I was really noticing that whenever I was experiencing emotional turmoil or like emotional pain, I would hit online or hit the shops. And even from like a young age, like retail therapy, right? Retail
Hmm.
therapy is a
Like we're conditioned for it.
we're so conditioned.
Yeah.
We almost have like it's really unhealthy standards where we have
Hmm.
to be seen to be wearing the new thing. Like I remember watching Clueless. I think it came out in like 1996.
Hmm.
And I watched it and having this like imprint of how fashion should be. Right?
Hmm.
With like Cher and Dion going shopping, and shopping became all of a sudden this like holy grail of femininity and identity.
Hmm.
The scene with her closet,
Hmm.
and it's like she's got this rotating
Yeah. It's like I
hang.
must have that, like I must have all these choices. And then
So
and then she's like, I have nothing to wear.
yeah, and even though that was like a comedy when
Hmm.
you're a child, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how it should be. So I was just bombarded with this like conditioning that I have to have more. Like I need more. I don't have enough. I have to have different things, more things. We had something here called jumble sales. I don't know if you
Hmm.
have them in the. It's kind of like a swap meet type thing, or it's kind of like a thrift kind of thing. And they
Okay. they're popping up more and more now because like people are just kind of shifting towards them. Plus, like I'm more into that community, so like I see them popping up. Yeah, okay.
Totally. But I would get given pocket money and I would go to the jumble sale and I would just buy like all of this
Oh.
stuff. But yeah, so looking back at my history of spending and consuming and purchasing, having that dopamine hit whenever I purchase has become I've become very, very mindful of that. We're so conditioned to purchase.
But if you think about like when you plan a trip, right, for example, anywhere, and they like, oh, you do this, do this, do this, and then there's like all the shopping that's available, and it's always an option, you know, for people to have.
Yeah.
So it goes back to like we're just so conditioned like to constantly consume without even thinking about it. Female fashion is so heavily trend driven. I subscribe to all the like who what wear. I don't know if they probably have like a UK version of it, but they have articles that you get bombarded every day, and they're like 29 items that are like amazing at Zara right now, or like here are the items I'm getting off ready for spring. This is the micro trend that's like popping up everywhere with all these influencers, and you're like, all right, cool, but like, do I need it? You know?
And that's the thing, because we are conditioned to believe that we do need it, that we're not going to live without it, that if we don't have it, we're going to look like an idiot or we're going to look wrong or bad. What gets you excited about sustainable fashion?
I think it just like pushes me to be a little bit more creative with my closet, and like the combinations that I usually wouldn't think of all of a sudden become viable. I do like my dopamine hits, but without consuming the rental industry is really helping me out with that. I don't know if you know, like in New York City, like everybody jokes like real estate is so precious. That includes your closet space, you know? So I have the so-called the meat and potatoes, and everything else, like all the trends that I may want to try but don't necessarily buy, I tend to rent. So what gets me excited about sustainable fashion is just like the ability to think sort of outside the box, taking stock of what you have already in your closet and just kind of figuring out new ways. And my husband's style is also really cool. So now and then I steal his shirts, and gets really annoyed about it. But he has like a couple of really loud shirts. I'm like, it's very much a part to how I like to be. It's like I'm a little out there usually. So I'm like, all right, you know what, let's try this out, but we're gonna tone it down with like a pair of jeans that I already have or something like that. Another thing is I live in Brooklyn, so a lot of times people leave clothes out on stoops, or if people are moving out of the building, they leave something downstairs. So if it's my size and if it's something I like, I'm gonna pick it up. I don't care. I'm gonna wash it, I'm gonna clean it, and then I'm gonna wear it. You know, it's not a big deal. And
I love that. It's
yeah,
like over here, you definitely have it too in the States, like curb furniture, where people just like, leave their furniture on the curb.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was obsessed with that for years, like
yeah,
dragging it in and painting it and then selling on Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, that's really cool. I mean, what's the difference in
yeah.
its outside than it being in a store?
I mean,
Please.
like we have like a dresser in the closet that was like somebody was moving out and they left it downstairs, and we're like, oh, well, we need a dresser.
It's just perspective. It's all
Yeah,
about perspective. Like
yeah.
one man's junk is another man's treasure. Before we get into how to be more sustainable, Aika, why should we be more sustainable with our clothing?
Well, I mean, what is it? The IPCC report that came out recently is saying that we need to like, we're at the point of no return. So fashion industry being one of the biggest polluters really very much contributes to that. And our spending and our money will speak volumes if we do something about it, right? No doubt about it. Fashion, what is it? Fast fashion is just, they're just horrible, you know, like, but like, I get it. Some people can only afford fast fashion, and that is okay if that's with them, but I always encourage like you can get the same price items secondhand. So we are at the point of no return that we collectively need to do something about it. I feel like in the United States, because there's no like collective thinking and collective hive, because it's more like me, it's kind of much harder to get people on board with that. New York is very liberal, obviously, and Brooklyn is extremely liberal. So if I go from here to like Missouri and I start talking about like climate change and this and the other and how our like affects it, I'm gonna look like a crazy person, you know? So like during COVID, look what happened. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but like every state was doing something different. So unless we have this like overarching legislature that will kind of like, we can't even agree on gun control right now, and there are kids dying every day, so like it's just so hard to get people on board and understand that your money that you earn, it's every meeting you have to sit through, it's every chat you have to have with Susan that you absolutely hate, like if you put that in that perspective, people begin to see how that will affect everything, really. So I mean, you got to think where your dollar is going, or your pound.
It's so powerful. Money is power at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It does, you're right. It totally does speak
Mhm.
very loudly where we put our money or we don't put our money. And one thing I'm really mindful of is shaming or making people who have to use fast fashion feel bad or guilty for it. And I guess educating, the more we educate people about the risks and why fast fashion is such a killer, such a killer for people, for
Yeah.
consciousness,
Planet, yeah, for
yeah, absolutely, for the
animals.
environment, for animals. I
Yeah.
am. I remember watching a movie about the rivers in India that are dyed blue from the dye
Mhm.
of denim. There's
Yeah.
red rivers and there's blue rivers, and as well as things like the Rana Plaza disaster, which if anyone hasn't heard of, it's a very harrowing, horrific story about textile garment factory workers
Wow.
having their factory basically fall down on top of them. That's not just a one-time thing. That's happening.
Mm.
The conditions that these garment workers have to work in, we've known this is bad. We know that they use child labor. We know that they don't look after their workers. We know they don't get paid a proper wage.
Think about it, like Earth is like, what is like 80% of the Earth is covered in waters. Just like that's the whole the butterfly effect. What will happen there will eventually end up here, like when we're like, oh, Japan, like the tsunami is like so far out, but then like California is getting affected from that as well, so like we're all interconnected, and I just don't think like there's like realization of that, but not really cognizant realization that like what I do as an individual will affect you, which is like way out in Scotland, you're like a pond away.
It is this cognitive dissonance, isn't it? It's like people kind of numb out and switch off to
Hmm.
it. Perhaps because they don't have the time to think of new or different options. It's far away, so therefore it's not affecting me. But when I think about all my friends here and your friends in New York who have family in like India or Bangladesh or
Hmm.
Pakistan or wherever they are, who have family, who know people working in these garment factories or know of that area where that exists.
Yeah, it's like 6 degree of separation, like, yeah,
It is.
eventually it'll come to you. I remember there was an article published about Zara and how they're able to pump out so much, like so many styles so fast. They literally time their workers, and like they have like 23 minutes or something to create a pair of jeans. And like if you fall below that, you're like, are you punished? What happens? And like the article wasn't clear about that at all.
Well, that does not surprise me whatsoever. Mental, physical, emotional, psychological sense for the human body.
Right. An economic sense in the community that they're in, that just like gets rid of the jobs. And then what happened in Detroit, I mean, they ultimately end up collapsing.
Absolutely. Okay, so fast fashion,
Mhm.
not great.
Not
No,
great.
not great. When you want that dopamine hit, there's oh man, there's like it's such a powerful hit. Like
Yeah.
I was guilty for a few years ago of going on Shein
Hmm.
and finding
Oh
those, finding
gosh.
bargains, and then I watched the documentary.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I doing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I
So
remember when Shein just came out, and I was like, what? How is it so cheap? I ended up buying like a couple of things, and I was like, this is like, first of all, it's like horribly cut. So like if you have a fuller body, you just end up feeling shitty about yourself. You're like, oh my God, this is my size, it should fit and all of that. But then add on top of that, you're like, why is it that cheap? Like there has to be a reason why it's so cheap. And now we know.
oh yeah, now we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So okay, so now we know why we kind of need to
Mhm.
avoid
Mhm.
fast fashion and why we need to be more sustainable and more
Mhm.
mindful of our fashion choices or our purchasing. How, right? If we are on a budget, how do we do that? How do we be more mindful, and what kind of practical tips do you have that we could use?
I am in a position where I am senior counsel. So it took me a while to get to where I am. So I am able to save my money. Um, and I am able to get something nicer if I feel like it. That being said, I choose not to, because I'm a lot more conscientious with my spending, just because of me being into sustainable fashion and everything like that. So majority of the clothes that I have purchased in the last year or so, they're all secondhand. So I always say, like, if you are feeling the need to buy or anything, like, hit up the thrift shops. They're so, like, first of all, the clothes are generally okay. I that that also comes with a caveat that we'll discuss it, but hit up the local thrift shops. There's always something good. In New York City, it's area dependent. So if you go to like nice areas like downtown Brooklyn or Upper East Side, you will find designer clothing for very cheap prices. I'm slowly building it up, buying only secondhand items. If I'm at the bar and somebody asks, oh, what brand this is, and I say, like, I don't know, Prada, Miu Miu, whatever it may be, their first thought is not going to be, oh my God, I wonder where she got it from, or did she get it secondhand? The idea association will be, oh wow, okay, and I don't need to tell them I bought them secondhand. So, like, in that regard, you just save money. My caveat with that is that the big brand thrift shops like Goodwill that we have, Salvation Army, they are still for-profit companies. So before hitting those up, I prefer to hit up the local ones, and I have a couple of them in my area, and then a couple in downtown Brooklyn, and I'm going there later, so I might just stop there. So for me, Consignment Brooklyn, which is very local to Brooklyn, they have a very beautiful selection of curated items, and they do that. So that is the caveat. And if one starts joining all these like sustainable fashion groups, or Buy Nothing group on Facebook, there are a lot of them. I have one in the area as well. People give away things and you can swap things. And I also have friends with a lot of dog people. So if somebody's my size, like, I had a business dinner to go to, but I didn't have a black, like, nice coat. I just didn't. I would wear my husband's usually. So I'm like, oh, I need like a nice coat. And so I hit up the group and I just borrowed it for a day, instead of buying something new. So that is option number 2, is, I think. And Instagram always has like if you're city specific or something like that, people usually have like swapping events, when you go in and you just go and see what others are into, and you could do that. Yeah, April obviously is Earth Month. New York City has like ton of like sustainable fashion events. There they have like either sustainable brands, or you, again, like a swapping option. What I always say is that when people start on their sustainable fashion journey, the immediate reaction is like, where do I buy it from? That should not be the first thought, So my first advice is always take stock of what you have in your closet. And I mean, like, take literally everything out, organize it, and see how, like, what you wear of most. And I did that a while ago, and I got rid of so much. And I don't necessarily go to donate it, because 80% of the things you do get donated kind of end up in, like, you don't really know where they end up. They either get shipped out or they end up in landfills. So my first thought, and I have a lot of cousins, as kids, they always would wear my hand-me-downs. So I always like hit them up first. I'm like, hey, I have all of these things. Do you guys want them? They're like, yes, absolutely. So because also I'm on Instagram, so like I have a lot, like, I flaunt them. They're like, oh, I want this, I want this. It's like the immediate picking. So that's that. And like my once that's like done, then I try to sell it. If that's not it, it's usually like my cousins kind of like take everything, so it never ends up in the landfill. So first and foremost, start in your closet, clean out your closet, see what you have, see what you need, see what you want, and then make a list. So when the next time you go somewhere, like in a thrift shop or anything like that, you have the list with you, and it'll help you from like doing the impulse buys. So when you have that, so I'm going to Manhattan Vintage Show, which is next weekend. I have been looking for a nice leather jacket, like a biker jacket, and a nice leather biker vest. So I have that list. I have 2 items that I'm absolutely want. So I'm like, that is my mindset when I'm going into that show next week, you know. So anything else, it might be cute, it might be not. I usually just take a card and think about it, you know, like, and if it's meant for me, like, I'll be like, okay, I'll got it. I've been thinking about it. I'm gonna purchase it. If not, then I'm just like, you let it go. At the end of the day, if like you're not thinking about that piece of clothing 24 hours later, you probably don't need it. My primary tips, like, wear what you have, clean out your closet. Number 2, think buying secondhand first from your local shops. 3, try swapping out, join the no buy groups on Facebook, see what events they have in your area. Number 4, like, upcycle. If a piece of clothing is not fitting or you want to try out something new, try upcycling. Add some like embroidery. Like, I'm into embroidery. I upcycle secondhand clothing from that. That's another thing. And I think the last option is like, buy from a sustainable brand. Again, the piece of clothing itself is never sustainable because it takes resources to create it, and as soon as you take the resources, you consume, right? So the most sustainable thing are the things that already exist. That is why I always suggest buying secondhand first, or like vintage, you know, even better.
And I love the community aspect that you
Yeah.
brought up there with your cousins and your neighbors and your dog friends, you know,
Yeah.
your friends who have dogs as well. I love
Yeah.
that you're building a community of like your wardrobes, and
Mhm.
you're swapping and you're getting to know each other and you're having fun. And yeah, it's a really, I never thought about that before,
Yeah.
but the community aspect.
Yeah, like, for Valentine's Day, I wanted to have a pink dress, but I didn't rent it in time. So again, like, I texted the dog group. I was like, does anybody have like a pink dress? And somebody, like, she's across the street, she was like, oh yeah, I have this one. By the way, I found it on a stoop in Park Slope, and I was like, even better, it wasn't my size, you know. I put it on, took some pictures. I was like, I really like this dress. She was like, you're returning this. I was like, damn it, okay. I was like, but I really like it. And she was like, yeah, me too.
Oh,
I
I
was
love
like,
it.
damn, okay, I'll bring it back.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law is actually really into vintage stuff, so she's been giving me a lot of my husband's grandmother's things. So like, that's like vintage. And when she
Um,
came, when she moved here from Ireland, so she brought a lot of stuff with her here. So I'm slowly like getting all of his grandmother's stuff, and I'm started wearing, which is making my mother-in-law very happy. So impeccable style, it like transcends time. So like, if you buy a beautiful cut blazer, it doesn't matter what year it's from, it's gonna be beautiful. Like with men, like I was saying, in the red carpet, a Gucci suit versus an Armani suit, it literally looks the same, you know. That's why classics never go out of style.
And there's an app that we have here. I don't know if you guys have it in the States. It's Vinted,
Mhm.
Vinted.
No, I've heard about it, but I'm not
I
sure
think
if.
you guys have like Poshmark and
Yeah.
Depop, don't
Hmm.
you?
Depop,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I think I don't, Vinted might be just a European thing, but I'm sure it's in the States as well. My podcast in February was with a clutter coach.
Mhm.
So I spent like most of February, March, like overhauling my wardrobe,
Mhm.
taking lots of, and I've made about £150, I think.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
selling my stuff like on this app.
Uh-huh.
It's super easy to use. And I'm literally obsessed. I'm like, give me your stuff. Give me your stuff to sell. What you said before about how when you take stuff to charity, when you take stuff to the thrift stores, the charity
Mhm.
shops, it can sit in the back of the store, or it can get sent to landfill, or it can
Mhm.
get sent away. So it's not necessarily getting used.
Mhm.
Whereas if like selling on these apps and things and Facebook Marketplace, somebody's choosing that thing.
Yeah.
Someone wants to wear that thing. So that makes me feel really happy because I was getting rid of a lot of stuff that was sentimental value,
Mhm.
clothing that I'd made myself and things that I'd worn on special occasions. But knowing that I'm not just getting rid and not knowing where it's going, like
Mhm.
knowing that somebody actually wants to wear it, buy it
Mhm.
and wear it was like,
Yeah.
oh, it feels much better. It
Yeah.
feels
Yeah. And that's another thing that people like don't realize, like the intention, the good intention is there, and then like, okay, this is going secondhand, somebody will buy it, somebody will wear it. Well, it's not necessarily true, you know, and I don't think people just realize it. And to have these, like, I follow a couple of resellers on Instagram and on TikTok, whatever, And they always say that people complain that resellers take all the best stuff, and they document how they have like bins and bins and bins, like just like clothes just constantly streaming into the thrift shops or like the consignment stores, whatever. And there's like I don't understand what people are complaining about. There's literally no shortage of clothes, you know?
Yeah, like the millions of tons of clothing that gets put into landfill each year is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like so much,
Yeah.
and it's not stopping. It's not stopping anytime soon, which is crazy, crazy, crazy. Say, for example, we have cleared out our closet, we've cleared out our wardrobe, we've gotten rid of some stuff, we've put some stuff up on Vinted, and we've made a note on our phone, which is what I'm totally going to do. I'm going to make a note of my, I mean, I've made a note already because I don't know if you saw on Instagram, but I've started planning my summer capsule wardrobe. So every year I create a capsule, like spring, summer capsule, autumn, winter capsule, and then I kind of supplement it with things that I find or, thrift or whatever through the year. So I've done that. I've cleared out my wardrobe. I've got my list of things that I'm either going to make myself or I'm going to attract to me via the universe.
Yeah.
What tips have you got for creating that meat and potatoes closet?
If we're talking about summer, I always say like kind of like figure out your style first and what you're into. Summertime, I either wear shorts or dresses, and I wear a lot of dresses. I absolutely love wearing dresses. Like comes springtime till like late fall, I'm usually in dresses. If I'm in shorts, it's usually because of my dog and I have to walk him and I have to be like active. My number one tip is like figure out what you like and just kind of stick to it. And the meat and potatoes of any wardrobe is usually anything like neutral colored, the black, the whites, and like the tans. They usually go with everything. So for me, I do have suits, just because I have to appear in court. Also, depending on what type of industry you're in, the suits are good. Classic jeans are always good. A trench never goes out of style. Bread and stripe things never go out of style. Leopard is controversial, but it is cyclical. It comes back ever so often. So is camo. Like, I'm not sure if you're into it. I'm into leopard. I have my leopard dress, never getting rid of it. It's a classic dress that like ever so often, like if you notice, like every 3 years, it's just like, oh, leopard's back, you know? So just like, don't throw it away. It's never going out of style. So summertime is all dresses all the time. So I'm all about like being that fall, obviously sweater weather. Have your like favorite sweaters, you know. Again, I usually the white, the black, and the tan usually goes with everything. When in doubt, I always say go monochrome. So like if you have like a tan pants, tan sweater, and like a camel coat, like you'll immediately look put together, you know, like you look like you have a stables, horses, and like a rich husband, you know, and you just never get dirty. So the whites, I always like, today I'm gonna wear all white, even though I'm going to a dog event, but I'm leaving my dog at home. So, you know, white looks like put together, red looks like you're spicy, and you know, just like kind of play around and see what it is that you're into. I never shy away from trends, and I tend to rent a lot of them. But I also know my body. I know like I don't like anything form fitting. If you like something form fitting, go for it. You know, like you just kind of have to play around and just determine what your style is. I think the older you get, the more you're like comfortable with certain things and not the others. But I'm always up for experiencing something and see if like, oh, like I didn't think that would work. Maybe I should get more of this. Maybe I should get less of this. Maybe I should upcycle the thing that I have and it'll look this way, you know. Know yourself, know your style, and then the rest will kind of come. Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you. I loved your reels of your outfits of your trip to Florida. Like
Oh,
your red
thanks.
stuff was
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. And when I watch your reels on Instagram, you would, unless you told me, obviously you're telling people that it is secondhand and it's rented or whatever or upcycled, you would never know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I think as well because you're really good at putting outfits together, like from a style perspective.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. And also you've got a good eye for choosing things that don't look like a bag of crap, which obviously is like
I
helpful.
think I think it's also like knowing what colors look good on you. Like I don't wear yellow just as a personal preference. It just doesn't look good on me. But then like I rented a dress that was orange one time and I was like, oh, never would have guessed, but orange is actually looks good on me, like, and it's just kind of like, don't be afraid to try things out to determine what you like. That being said, do it in such a way that is a conscious way. Like, you could borrow from a friend if like a friend has, like, I don't know, like a periwinkle dress, and you like, I've always wanted to dabble in periwinkle, so like try it out. I was determined to like get a rainbow color suits just because I love suits. I love wearing suits. I think it's fun. It looks put together but still playful enough. That's why I just like made an impulse secondhand purchase of like this like forest green suit with blush pink piping, and it just like really cute, and from this brand that makes really good suits. So I'm like, a suit I can always keep, a suit I know I will rewear, a suit I will have for a while.
That sounds gorgeous. That sounds really cool. And something that I have been very conscious of telling people is finding a really good tailor, because if you buy something secondhand that is slightly too long in the leg or long in the sleeves or shoulders or whatever, you can take it to get altered. Easy peasy.
That will learn how to sew. That's another good one. I do have a good tailor in the vicinity. She tailored my wedding dress. Another thing I always suggest, if you want to get something secondhand and it's too large, get it, because you can get that tailored. Never buy something that you're kind of like unsure, like, will I wear it? Will I not?
I'll buy it because I might lose like 10 pounds this summer.
Yeah, exactly. But like, if you're iffy about it, like, you're not gonna get it. It's just one of those things where if you look something and goes like, "Ooh, this is interesting," like, but that's not quite my size. It's a little too large. Get it. You go to a tailor. The tailor will make it nice and cute for you. I have this like maroon suit that I got it and it was too large. Admittedly, it was from Zara, but it was from like 7-8 years ago. I still wear it, and when I got it was a little too large because I didn't have my size. They tailored it perfectly to me, and like every time I wear it, it's just like such a like power move, like
yes. And there's nothing more like something that like fits you really well, looks chic, it looks expensive.
Yeah, it looks like a tailor made for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good. And something that you have been doing that I've noticed recently is getting into like more upcycling stuff. I saw your embroidery. You've been like, you got yourself an embroidery machine. You've been
Yes.
like doing patches on things. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
So I've gotten into embroidery a while ago. It's probably in 2015. Yeah, that's when I got into it. And I saw this like blog post when blogs were like still big. This blog called Honestly WTF, and she posted something about embroidery. I wanted to do a pussy power jacket, a pussy being my cat. So I decided to embroider it, and I did it, and it looked great. And then I just kind of like, it looked good for the first time. So I kind of started going with it, and people were like, oh, this looks great. Do mine, do mine, do mine. So I slowly started getting into it, and I actually gonna wear this. It's being auctioned off, but this one I've done as well.
So good. This Atlas is your doggy, right?
Yeah, it's my pup. Yeah, that's Atlas. So yeah, I like, my specialty is like pet portraits. So, but if whatever you want to embroider, go for it. And my other Instagram account is an embroidery based account where I have secondhand clothing, either already have or have bought, and I upcycle it. And whatever people want, because I do have a machine now. Hand embroidery takes a while, so this stuff is like, I started pricing it out on a higher scale just because it takes me like solid 8 weeks to create one. And it is very detail based, and it's like, yeah.
You're not a sweatshop.
And that's the thing. Like, people don't like, when they're like, just like, well, I can go somewhere else and get it for cheaper. I'm like, okay, do it. Like, this is hand labor. Like, this goes with love. Like, I sit for like 6 hours at a time. It's my time, it's my labor. Like, you don't have to get it from me, like,
Yeah.
like, and that's why I got a machine. A machine is like way less detail if you look at it. And like, my husband, I was attaching this because I'm wearing to the event. And my husband's like, wow, your hand embroidery is like way better than machine. I was like, yeah, I know. Like, because this has like more detail, not like the blobs, like this is black, this is dark gray and all of that. I was like, oh, there's a dog, So yeah, embroidery is like, it's one of the fun things like you could do, and it's like very low stress, and you don't have to be a master at it. And you can, you could start with like sayings or like a flower or something simple, like, and then it creates like this newness to the clothes that you already have if you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, you're adding your personality onto it, right? You're adding your
Exactly.
a little flair
Yeah.
onto it.
I don't know. It's like really cool because it just like lets your creativity run, you know, in whatever direction you want it to go.
I ran a creative therapy business for a decade, for almost 10 years. So I
Wow.
completely understand the importance of like the
Mm.
mindfulness of it, sitting down and doing that hand-to-eye coordination, stitching. So good, so
Yeah.
powerful.
And I watch like trash TV when I'm doing it, or I watch a movie that I've been meaning to watch. And like there was a period of time when I was like doing Atlas and Royd and I was watching like 90 Day Fiance, and my husband was like, what are you watching? I was like, I was just like, let me be, like, I'm doing my thing, you know?
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got cleared out the wardrobe, we've got the meat and potatoes, we've got the list on the phone, we're going out and we're getting our things. Do you have like days where you go out, specific days where you set where like I'm gonna go shopping this day? Or do you just kind of when you're out and about, how do you like to shop?
I mean, if I'm like in the neighborhood of somewhere, like today, like I'll be in the neighborhood and I know the two shops that I like, I might just head up there and just take a look, you know, but I don't have like the specific days when I actually go out and shop. Um Now and then I'll like go there's an online store called ThreadUp. I don't know if you have it in, where you are, but they they always have like fun things, and like because I collaborate with them, they like send out the letter, and I was like, oh, I haven't been on that website in a while, like let me see what they have. But that being said, like if I am on there and I don't see anything, I'll be like this is okay, you know, like I'm not gonna go out of my way and do it. I feel like I've gotten to the point where I'm very conscientious with my spending, and I know like if I'm gonna get it, I want to wear it. So like I always say, ask why before you buy. Why would you want to wear it? How many ways can you wear it? What is the reason you want to buy it? Is it to get the dopamine hit? Is it because it's bringing you joy right now, or do you think it's gonna bring you joy later? You know, like every time I open, so we put like all the winter clothes away. I mean, all the summer clothes away. So every time I open it and like all these dresses spill out, I'm like, ah, it brings me so much joy to see them, you know? So I'm like, yes, this is like the wardrobe. Like I'm excited to wear this. It's gonna be great, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so so ask why before you buy.
Yeah.
So why, what's it gonna go with? Why are you
Yeah.
buying? You're buying for the dopamine hit.
Yeah. Are you gonna, how many ways can you style it? Like how many places can you wear? Are you gonna be, do you think you'll be wear it from like a year from now, 2 years from now? You know, like things like that. If, especially if it's a more classic cut piece or a classic color, you're more likely to like kind of mix and match it with a lot more things, you know? Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for fabric because I make a lot of my own clothes, and
Mhm.
fabric is just as unsustainable as fashion clothing.
Mhm. Yeah.
So obviously because it's the same thing, but um so I've become way more mindful. I recently got given a load of vintage fabrics from a friend.
Mhm.
Like we're talking like 70s, like
Oh
70s
wow.
fabrics, really cool. So I've just been like washing them, getting them ready to make some really fun summer outfits with this fabric. And that, I think there is a set of curtains in there, and I intend to fully use that set of curtains, like the one traps, the rock
I
up
have,
like Maria and the
yeah,
kids.
my friend just like found like a tablecloth and she made like a really cute two-piece suit that she wore to like a bachelorette party. I'm like, and we have the same machine, and I got the embroidery machine because of her. And I was like, oh, I guess that's a new step, like learning how to sew. She was like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like you get like quite literally like custom pieces for yourself. And I'm like, damn, if that was on the rack, I'd buy that, you know?
Amazing. So do you think that's something you're maybe going to try next?
I think so, but I just need to like get my embroidery like down pack, I think, and I'm still like enjoying doing that because it's
Mhm.
a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. But sewing is probably gonna be like the next thing. It's very time consuming. That's what it is, you know, and like I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sewing in general. I mean, any form of creativity is time consuming, but then at the same time, the way that I see it is that I'm investing in my
Mhm.
mental health, investing in my emotional health. It's really good for my focus, for my hyper
Yeah.
focus.
Mhm.
It's really good to like unpack my day, my day job, or whatever I'm doing at work, is to
Mhm.
then use the sewing machine and have
Yeah.
like a couple of hours of just like hand-eye coordination, like
Mhm.
fun stuff.
Yeah, 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 totally. And like my mom sews, so she's been like on that type of kick, and I'm just like, all right, maybe I should like learn that next, you know?
Absolutely. It is really addictive. Once you know, like I always tell people, because when I used to teach it, I always tell people, when you're learning, make it the same thing over and over again. Find something that you like, that you know you're going to wear, and make the same thing over and over again. So way back, I used to make like jersey dresses, like just the long t-shirts basically, and that was dead zigzag stitch, dead easy.
Yeah.
And then as time's gone on, I'm like now into shorts and trousers, so I just make like, and I never really wear dresses. I only ever wear dresses to like super special occasions, because I like, as I said before, I like my athleisure, anything with elastic waistband. I'm so there. Comfort is everything now.
Yeah.
So I'm all about the shorts. I'm all about the cargo pants. I'm all about the combat trousers. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really, really fun. But it's the buying of the fabric that I'm going to take a huge step back from.
Do you guys have like places where you can get secondhand fabric? Because we have this place called Fab Scrap where they literally rescue all this like fabric that would have gone to like landfills.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
awesome. But there's one place in the city in Glasgow that I know of. They do cashmere and wools. It's like excess, cuttings from the factories, because we've got a lot of cashmere factories
Yeah.
here, wool
Yeah,
factories.
the
So
best the best cashmere sweaters I got were in London. I still
yeah,
have them.
yeah, totally. We've got that, but I don't actually know if we have any. Like, I'm gonna check that out though, because that sounds like it could literally tick so many of my boxes. Dopamine hit, fabric,
Yeah.
secondhand, sustainability.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have there's this other creator in the sustainable industry in Brooklyn too. Funny enough, she also is in legal profession and she works for a judge. But what she does is rescues fabric and makes lingerie with it. And it's like really cute, like lingerie, like whatever gender you are, whatever identity you go with, she will custom make that to you to fit your body specifically. And it's
Wow.
really cool. Yeah, yeah.
There's literally, it's endless. Once you really start getting into it, the creativity, like it really inspires and sparks your creativity. Like being sustainable actually isn't a
Isn't
lack.
limiting at all.
No, it's not limiting, it's
Yeah,
liberating.
yeah, totally. And that's what I always say. Like, I feel like when people think sustainable fashion, it's immediately like earth tones, very subdued and all of that. I was like, no, sustainable fashion is like very colorful. Like it's whatever you want it to be. It's just a matter of like taking what you already have. That's why I always said the most sustainable thing is already in your closet. You don't need to buy anything more.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And also as well, we all have our favorite items of clothing in our closets, in our wardrobes. Like I know this top is one of my favorite pieces, and like it's my go-to. And I bought it last year.
Hmm.
It's Free People.
Hmm.
Like I know that I'm gonna be wearing this for a very long time, because it's
Yeah.
clean, it's cute, and I love the color, and it's one of my favorite. And so that is, I'm being sustainable, even though the purchase wasn't sustainable. But I know that when it's nearing its end of its life for me, I'll pass it on to someone else who loves it. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's about uh, it's not necessarily like oh, you need to stop buying everything. You need to stop buying from like all these brands. It's like your purchases need to be conscious on of itself. Just because it looks cute on your friend does not necessarily mean it'll look cute on you. And that being said, you should not be pressured to buy it. And if you are going to buy it, wear it. Like make use of it. And that's what I call it, the CPW, cost per wear. How would you justify those purchases? Like, and I always put it in perspective. So like you get this $100 dress, right? How many times are you gonna wear it? Is it one time? Is it 20 times? Now think of each of those, like each dollar in itself, and how many meetings did you have to sit through? How many late nights did you have to work for you to earn that $100 that you're now going to invest if you are going to wear it a lot, or you just simply throw it away, right? So if once you start thinking in those terms, it's kind of like shifts the perspective and you're like, I don't really want to spend that money, like I'd rather buy myself a nice flight and go on an adventure somewhere.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
That's such a good perspective. I'm really looking forward to the day where I can go to because I love beautiful things,
Mhm.
and I want to support organizations that make beautiful things,
Mhm.
right? That are kind to people,
Yeah.
organizations that are not cruel. So I can't wait for the day where I can go into a store and
Mhm.
spend more than I would have done in the past on
Mhm.
something, with
Mhm.
that thought of, well, it's an investment. I'm investing in myself.
Mhm.
And say, for example, I wear it for 100 coaching sessions, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Then, or 100 hours of coaching or whatever,
Yeah.
then that's paid for that item
Mhm.
of clothing. And then if I sell it on, then it's paid for itself, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it, because you're a lawyer, you're logical. I love that kind of like the thought process behind that is
Yeah.
it's really cool.
And then that goes back to think why before you buy, right? It's like, so you start thinking about these things, and like I can go to the store, to like any store, and walk out without purchasing, despite being tempted to do it, because like I stop myself and be like, why do you want this? Do you have something similar?
Yes.
You absolutely do not need this, and I can just walk out without feeling bad. If I'm still thinking about that piece of clothing a day, a week later, I'll go back, and like reassess. But if I forget it as soon as I leave, I'm like, it was meant to be. I didn't need it anyway.
That's
Yeah.
really useful, especially like for the whole impulse buying thing,
Yeah.
because I would always convince myself to buy it.
Because that goes again with these advertising and all of that. They just kind of put this pressure on you, because if you don't buy right now, you're gonna miss out. And ultimately what it is like, you are not gonna fit in. And we as humans have grown up in societies where the only way to survive is to fit in, right? So like it's like immediately you're the outsider because you're not cool, and because you do not have this piece of item, and therefore you need it, right? So, and the reality is you don't.
Yeah, and it starts from in here, right? It starts
Yeah.
like whether you believe whether you're cool or not,
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
starts from here, not here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I feel like it's also maybe comes with age as well. So like the older I'm getting, the more like I was just like, I just don't care. Like it's like, do you like me or not? I don't care. Like if you're gonna leave me a nasty comment, I'm like, there's a quick unfollow button. Like, why are you even following me? And so like you don't have to be involved in my life. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's cool. Like there are plenty of people like who would want to hang out with me. So I'm like, whatever.
yeah, like we have been conditioned and programmed with really like unachievable high standards of beauty and expectations as women, especially like what you said at the start about like women's fashion is trend driven.
Mhm.
Men's fashion probably been the same for decades, right? With these maybe slight subtle changes of like in styles of legs, trouser
Yeah,
legs.
or lapel like lengths on their suits.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that fascinating?
It's crazy. I mean, like women are expected to have Kim Kardashian's ass and tits with like a waist of an 11-year-old, be completely hairless like a baby seal, and like have not been a virgin but haven't slept with a lot, it's just like want kids but also like one job but then be a good mom, and you're like, what's like it's just like it's unattainable standards. No. And once you let go of all of that, whatever, like let me live, and you like become just so much more, it's a lot more liberating, like you said. And yeah. And that is not to say like I'm not impulsive in some buys, and if I am in a secondhand store, like if I see like a dress that I was like, okay, it took me a while to cultivate my style. I know in my gut, like if I see a piece of clothing and I like it, I was like, I know I'm gonna wear it. This one skirt I got, like it's at Buffalo Exchange. It was a beautiful ALC skirt, and like you've seen it on Instagram like a couple of times. And I was like, it's a gorgeous skirt. I wear it all the time. Like it was worth it for me. Like did I need it? No, I didn't. I would have been fine. I have 10 other skirts that I can mix and match, but like, does it bring me joy? And am I getting the bang for the buck? Oh, absolutely. So that would makes it worth it for me. The same thing with the suit. Like it was literally an impulse buy the other day, but the brand that produces those suits, I know it's a reputable brand. I know their suits are well cut, and I know it's a suit. So for most and foremost, like I will wear a suit. Like I work in the environment where suits are I like to dress up when I go to work. It's like kind of like puts you in the mindset like now you are at work, you should work, you're an adult. I still don't feel like an adult, but like you're an adult, so you're going to work, you should wear a suit kind of thing.
And so the thing I always say or think of when I'm impulse, or if I know that I'm impulse buying, is what emotional need am I trying to fill with this,
Yeah.
like spending, because it's an addiction. It can be an addiction like any addiction, except spending and shopping is like an acceptable addiction,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
consumerism.
I'm not saying like there aren't days when I'm just like, oh, I have nothing to wear. Like I have plenty of to wear, and then if I am if I do have the days where I'm really uninspired by my closet, I literally go, and I think I made a reel about it, like how to like get inspired, is either have a mood board, so to speak, on Instagram, because you can save pictures and everything, or on Pinterest. And like I try to divide them by seasons too, so like summer and spring, like summer and winter, at least like those 2 seasons, and just like scroll through, and all of a sudden like you get all these like in a way, I guess it's a dopamine hit in a different way, and then you're like, oh, I have this piece of clothes, and I have this, oh, I never thought of it, let me try and mix and match. And like sometimes that's how the ideas get born. And I was just like, there are a couple of them. Oh, I don't know what to do. And then I saw this like one girl wearing a black leather skirt with a white sweater and snakeskin print booties. And I was like, I literally have all of those things. And I put it together. I was like, that's a great freaking outfit. Like, oh, I would not have thought about it had I not like been browsing. I was like, oh, cool. Like now, like my juices start flowing. And then I was just like, I can wear a snakeskin print with this and this and this and this and this. And you're like, oh my God, okay, cool. I can like extend this clothing a little further,
Yeah, you're playing with your closet.
It's
When I
it's a
was
dress up, yeah.
Yeah, you're playing dress up. Yeah, when I was little, I used to play with my makeup and my clothes and play dress up. And because we're adults now, right, or
Yeah.
we're supposed to be adults, I don't feel like one, but most of the time,
Mhm.
I we dismiss and we reject and perhaps suppress the importance of play in our
Yeah.
lives, and how relieving and liberating and relaxing playing actually is. So one thing that I'm definitely going to do, or I want to do, that I'm one of my intentions that I'm setting throughout this no buy year, is to play more, play
Mhm.
with what I've got. And what you described there with the sweater and the skirt and the boots is playing, right?
Yeah.
Putting things together that you would not necessarily think to put together. And your capsule wardrobe, whatever you have, can go a million other ways probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say like have fun with fashion. Like fashion is not like rule bound. And like for so long it was just kind of thought of as like oh, it's inclusive thing and a winter and blah 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 and Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. And I was like, no, fashion's for everybody. It's fashion's what you wear. And that the Devil Wears Prada was discussing like how like everything gets trickled down anyway. And I think a lot of people are really afraid of color and color dressing, but like you won't know until you try, so like how will you know if you like it or not unless you try it?
Absolutely, I 100% agree.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much, Aika. This has been so lovely chatting with you. Is there anything that you want to mention or say about fashion, sustainability, anything like that?
Everybody can start like right now. Like you don't have to wait for a perfect moment. It's spring. It's perfect time to start because everybody is spring cleaning. Everybody needs to reset for the summertime. Take stock of what you have now. Just clean out your closet and start fresh. Make piles and see, can I give this to somebody who will wear it? Is this too ripped to do anything? And before throwing it away, try to recycle it first. There are plenty of companies. I'm not sure about UK, but in the US, there's like so many companies popping up. What they do is recycle it and make it into insulation, or try and upcycle it and make it something else, So I say like, don't wait, start now. Sustainable fashion is accessible for everybody. Fashion in general is accessible to everybody. There's like, there's no need to shame people for only being able to buy fast fashion. Just start doing it more consciously. You do not need to consume everything. You do not need that article of clothing. You probably have something similar. If you know your style, take stock of what you have a running list. And when you do have the impulse to buy, try looking at Pinterest first, try looking at Instagram first to see if you could recreate something with the outfits that you already have.
So many amazing golden nuggets for
Oh,
us to take.
I hope so.
Absolutely. I feel inspired.
Oh, yay.
Absolutely. Thank you so
You
much.
should come to New York and we can go to Fab Scrap. Just let you
Yeah.
know, they have like a facility and we can like literally go in there, make an appointment. And like, I know people who work there. So like,
Oh my
we
God,
can
that's
get you a
amazing.
bunch of stuff. And there's a massive thrift shop in New Jersey that has all this really cool tablecloths if you really want to make something out of them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Aika, for this amazing chat.